Uncomfortable Conversations. Thank you, Shay, for being a part of this. This is as a result of a lot of shit that's been going on, not just over the past couple months, but like I think maybe as long as we've been alive and even longer. I think it just came to mind because of the scenario around Tony Salao's death, rest in peace. Within the Black Lives Matter movement, within the rage, within the discomfort, within the fights, within the riots, to see that happen and to learn that it was from a black guy, I was like, okay, like, this is not the first time this has happened, but like, this feels different. Like, today, this feels different. And we've seen many other videos, many other incidents of black women being mistreated by black men. And I also have my own personal experiences of mistreating black women in my life. And that's something I've been actively trying to change. So I wanted to have this conversation. Talk to other black guys. Let's just be honest and open. Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. Like, we just want to be honest so that other guys can be honest with themselves too. That's it. We're also eating.
Shout out.
So we're gonna break bread. We're gonna you're welcome in my house is what I'm saying.
Yo, if you haven't had a Chef T special, then I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing in this life. Like, fix your game up.
Do you have anything to say before I jump into today's theme?
I mean, like, for me in particular, like you said, it was just about this whole conversation came about the entire Black Lives Movement, the Tony Salao unfortunate incident, and for me, I just felt that I felt like a really, really emotional disconnect at that point, because I remember when it happened, when I reached out to you on Twitter, it was I had a conversation with a friend of mine who were just talking, and she went, "Why do black men hate black women?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Mind you, this girl I think she's like a 10 out of 10, and I feel like she can get any guy that she wants. So I'm like, why would you feel that way? And if there's any guy that's making you feel that way, then screw this guy. Like, he doesn't deserve you, right? But then I realized as I was saying this, I'm downplaying her reality. So even before all of this happened, I reached out to my friend group, all my guys. If you don't have a friend group that doesn't hold you accountable, I don't know what you're doing, guys. But I went into my friend group and I said, "Hey guys, like, this friend of mine said this, like what do you think? Is this actually true?" And a lot of these guys, like I said, no, like, I mean, they like black women, they date black women. And then, but then they made me realize that, okay, Shay, like, this is not your reality, this is her reality. So I had to go back and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't really think about it from your perspective, like, how can guys be better? And that's when I saw what you tweeted, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, like, I'll be vulnerable. Like, I'll just come from my trip and say, like, I don't know the answers, I'll just put that out right now. I don't know the answers, I don't know nothing, but I want to be a better person. I feel like we should all be better people regardless, right? So, here for honest conversations, uncomfortable, honest conversations.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, it might, like, it's gonna feel weird, man. Like, especially seeing this online, it's gonna feel weird. So we'll get there. Okay, so we are having a goat meat bolognese that I made a couple days ago. It's like something I just really wanted to do for a long time. Shout out to my butcher for grinding the goat meat for me. No Shotaho, the best guys ever. Dave, shout out to Dave at No Shotaho, best guy. So that's what we're having today. For me, food is an important part of being honest, of being open, of welcoming people into a space. So like, I wanted to incorporate that into this. But that's not the start of the show today. The start of the show today is the conversation. It's what we have to say. And I'm just gonna jump right into it, man. Like, the theme for today, we have a few themes, but today's theme is safe spaces. Subtext, safe for who? Right? Like, we're in this space today, like, this is a comfortable environment for me and you, because you know me, I know you, like, we feel comfortable enough to talk to each other. But like, when you think about like psychological, emotional, like physical spaces that we create for the black women in our lives, like how safe are those spaces for them? Like, and when I say safe, like, your female friends may come around you, like, I can go to Shay's house, I feel comfortable, but like, maybe there's something on their mind that they want to tell you, like that girl's experience, for example. Like, she wants to tell you about that, and she felt safe enough. But if you haven't gone back, like, her next few sort of interactions with you might have been different, because she might be like, okay, yeah, she is my friend, but like, I don't feel too safe telling him these sorts of things because like I didn't feel validated. So like, I'm thinking about that line going forward before we jump into anything else about our behavior and things like that. Like, what are those spaces we create? Like, I'm gonna read the definition of safe spaces off here. Like, it's a place or environment in which a person or category of people can feel confident that they will not be exposed to discrimination, criticism, harassment, or any other emotional or physical harm. It's a lot. Is there anything that's coming to your mind right now before I even start asking any questions?
I try not to overcomplicate or oversimplify things. I try to live my life, and I know this is like the whole cliche thing where like everyone says this is so biblical, like it's easier said than done. But I try to live my life, just treat others the way you want to be treated. Like that's how I try to live my life. Like as simple as that. But it's not that simple, right? Like life is not black and white. There's gray, there's light gray, there's all this other shit. But I feel like if human beings can just go by that simple tenets, if you don't judge people, like let people live their experience and just respect their decisions and make things as comfortable for people as possible, then life would be a better place. So in terms of safe space in the conversations with women and making women feel comfortable, if you try not to put your own agenda on a woman, I mean, we're guys.
Easier said than done.
It's just said that done, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, like this is your friend, it's your sister, it's your cousin, whatever it is, right? Like, if you cannot have that sort of open relationship, honest relationship, where they can come up to you and be like, okay, yeah, I can trust you with certain things, or I can present you with certain situations without the fear that you would not judge me, or without the fear that you would downplay my feelings, then I don't know what we're doing. That being said, again, like I'm not perfect. I know I'm guilty of this. Like I've probably still done this in the past, but I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to self-reflect, trying to make sure like I say the right things, I do the right thing, just so people are just. Life is hard. Life is just hard. So like I don't like anything that does make things less difficult. Like I'm up for that, you know.
Okay. There's something you said that I want to touch on, like this is how it's gonna go. Like I'm just gonna pick based off of the conversation. In terms of, I mean, you may not have met this, but cousin, sister, friend, whatever the case may be, but person, like outside of relative, like as a woman, like as a black woman, do they have to be your relative? Do they have to be your friend? Do they have to know you at all to be able to feel safe around you? And this doesn't, okay, emotional is different because like, again, you need a different sort of connection for emotional safety can start to build. But even physically, like I was thinking about it the other day, some girl on Twitter posted her run route, and someone was like, yo, this isn't safe, right? Like another woman just checked out, was just like, yo, like this, like everyone shares their run route, but as a woman, this isn't the safest thing to do, right? Like, so even the idea that a woman cannot go running and just like share her achievements just to show people the distance, the time, the map on Nike or whatever, Strava, but like that hit me, man. It's another one of those things where you're just reading and you're just like, okay, I wouldn't even have thought about that.
I was just about to say that, like as guys, how much like do we really even think about that? Oh, I'm going to run, I'm posting my routes. Is it safe for me? You know, we don't really think about that stuff, and it's sad. I guess let me turn the question back on you right now. Is how do we move forward from there? Like, how do we cross that bridge where there's that self-awareness from guys where we actually think about these type of things? Because this is not something that I intuitively knew. Like, this is all of my experiences with, in terms of how to treat women, how to deal with women. Coming from a Nigerian background, that's a lot of unlearning, a lot of relearning. And I'm not an expert. Like, I would never say I'm an expert because when I'm not a woman, and unfortunately I'm not as read with this, but a lot of my experiences with my interactions with my friends in online, like talking to people, having this conversation, that's how I get my experience.
Right.
So that's my own reality, but people are different. So how do we see that other people, other guys, other men share this sort of mentality where they are able to self-reflect and actually think about how women feel and how to make their space safer or make their spaces surrounding them safer?
Okay, you asked me a question, I'm going to ask you a question. Because that last thing you said is about the first question. So what do you consider a safe space for black women in your life?
So are we still talking about, I mean, this is still like in general, not just my cousins, my family.
Yeah, in general, yeah. What would you consider? And this is physical, emotional, like.
Yeah, fair. I mean, like I just try to be as respectful. I try to be as open as I can. Unfortunately, I'm still a guy. Sometimes I might have hidden agendas. I know I shouldn't say that, but
No.
but
Be honest.
but within that, I'm still somewhat respectful towards that. Like if someone tells me something that goes against like maybe she's not down for something or she doesn't like. For me, that's just straight up
Consent.
I was having a conversation this morning with a friend of mine, and it was all about you're trying to go talk to a girl, and maybe you want to kiss her, and I'm like, yo, me, I'm the kind of person, I'll ask you. I say, can I kiss you? I don't care, I'll ask you. It's not lame. Some people are saying, oh, let's read the room. I'm like, nah, I don't want where next thing I know you're on Twitter, she's a rapist, and say, nah, because let's be open. I'm like, I want to be able to like, I want a situation where anything, all of our conversation, like you're okay, you're open, like we're honest, we're respectful, you know, like I'm not trying to
like do corner,
you know,
like,
man, like let's just be open and upfront. So like if I'm able to show that to you by my words and by my actions, then we can actually build genuine relationships. And not plugging myself in, but like for me, like my friends know, like for me, relationships with my friends and my family, people, that's the most important thing to me in particular. So I don't care about money, I don't care about fame, like my relation with people, that's the most important for me. So like I want to cultivate that where people can actually have genuine relationships with me. So maybe that answers the question in terms of how I treat people, how I make safe spaces. That being said, it's not always been that way. Like I've had friendships that have gone awful. I've had
because of the space is not feeling safe, or them not feeling comfortable.
Not necessarily. I would say maybe speaking in general terms. Maybe me. Maybe I messed up. Maybe they messed up. I don't know. But I just like the people I'm not friends with. Females as well, maybe things I've done, and obviously I'll try my all with that. So like I fucked up. There's situations where women fucked up, and for me, like, I'm trying to protect my own sanity and my own safe space. So I'm just like, no, you know, cut that off. So,
okay, I'm gonna bring this back to you, and I know you might feel uncomfortable by me asking this, but I want to check something you said. So when in the situation where you're asking a babe for consent, is the motivation because you respect her consent and her rights to want to do this, or is it the fear of something happening afterwards if it doesn't like go according to the way that you thought it was going?
I get what you're saying. My question is there really a difference?
Yeah,
there is. You say there's a difference.
Yeah,
because
difference.
I mean, if I'm trying to protect myself, right, from any future repercussions, I'm still somewhat being respectful because I'm not then going to go up and like, oh no, she said no, and then I hate you. No, like we're cool. Like I respect that you said that. Like let's move on. Maybe like that's not. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's not tomorrow. Maybe that's not even what you want as well. But at least I respected the fact that you said no. I'm okay with that. Like life moves on. I'll not be the first person to get rejected. I won't be the last person.
Right.
Girls reject people. Guys reject people. You move on. Life's not that hard, in my opinion.
That's interesting because like I've been thinking about that a lot because like obviously there's been a lot of calling rapists out on Twitter, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And you see some guys saying, better ask, and they say this joking, it's like you better ask Kisa next time before they come and say you are a rapist. And it's like, but like what really and truly was the motivation? Because if it's fear of being shamed, then you don't really care, right? Like, like that's the difference for me. Like, I'm not saying that I haven't thought that before, because maybe because of all the action online, it's like I don't want to be one of those names, but it's like I don't want to put the babe in that situation anyway. Like that should be the motivation for me. And I again, this is like something that I've thought about a lot, and it's been like it's one of those things where it hits you. It's like, yo, I actually thought about that. Like I was just afraid of my name being like thrown online. It's like your name will be thrown online for any other thing, right? Like why is this the one thing that is scaring you? If you are with your babe and she feels uncomfortable, right then like the respect should be for this person as a person, for their humanity, for their decisions. And if you see that sort of discomfort and in your mind, you're picturing the TL and your name, like, and it's like,
I think it can work I think it can work in tandem. I think there's nothing wrong in using fear as a motivator to make you act right.
Right.
I also think that you should also try and look at this other person's perspective and say, like, do I respect this person? Do I want to make sure like she's comfortable in her space, in the shared space, and in her decisions regardless. And I think it's on us guys as well to be fine with those decisions that
of course
females let us know, like, fuck the ego.
Yeah.
Like leave everything aside, and this is still a human being regardless. And if the person tells you nah, fine, like keep it moving, like just life moves on. It's not the end of the world.
I love that, because the next question is, how do you know these spaces are safe, right? Like, for someone to feel confident in their decisions, like, I think about growing up, and you know, like, maybe you spoil something at home, right? Like, or you mess up basically,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you don't feel confident in like, you're like, daddy, mommy, I did this, because you know the outcome is about to, like, there's no understanding, because they probably come back from work and they're just like, bro, like, I don't need this today, like, I don't. And so, like, sometimes those, like, emotional spaces, like, maybe we're not curated well enough, like, or whatever the case may be, and then we grow up and, like, we don't feel confident asserting ourselves in places we should assert ourselves. Like, we don't feel confident saying, I'm not comfortable with this, like, because I should just respect the other person. Initially, it's an adult, but then it becomes everybody else that you meet, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then I think about that in the case of black women, and like, just the idea of you should always respect a man. Like, just like, if a guy wants this from you, you should give it to him. Like, you are your main source of, like, sort of approval. Everything is this man's approval, or what this man gets from you. And it's like, so how do you now even think about a safe space for that kind of person, where they don't even think about asserting themselves, expressing discomfort, saying no? Like, how do we, like, how do you even, like, how do you notice those things in your friends? Like, for me, like, I'm a pretty perceptive person, and, like, I can see when people say certain things, or they act certain way. I'm just like, yo, like, this is that, right? Like, maybe as a friend, as my sister, or whatever, you don't feel comfortable enough, like, just, like, stating yourself. As a man, you just walk in and just, I'm here, like, like, I can say no, I can say it, who cares? But like women don't always get that, and sometimes as guys we don't see it, and so we're just like, whatever. She's just like, but being perceptive enough to know that, fam, this babe doesn't feel safe enough here, and, like, it's my job, like legit, it is your job, like, as the human being in that situation, man or woman, like, if you see that happening, like, you got to be able to say, like, yo, like, it's okay, like, even just ask the question, like, were you okay with that? Like, do you want to say no? You can if you want, right? Like, yeah, I feel like you're gonna say something.
There are two things that you touched up right there, which is being able to say what you feel, so communication. And I don't want to assume and say it's as easy, or it's just like it's something that just comes naturally. Like, not just in communication with your friends, like communication within the work environment, communication within your social environment, everything. Just be open enough to speak. Yeah. And that's something that I'm still only getting good at, where I actually say how I feel. Like, I mean, even up until yesterday, like, a good friend of mine, like, there was some messed up stuff that happened, and naturally I'm the kind of person that don't say anything. I just put it down, just try and forget about it. But I was like, like, if this is my friend, like, I should be able to just say I feel. I was like, look, like, this is how I feel. Like, I didn't fuck with this. But that's not to say that, like, I want anything from you. I want things to change. I just want you to let me know this is how I feel. Regardless, we're still good. You're my guy. Like, that's most important to me. And, like, if I can have this sort of conversation with you and say you're my friend, then what's the point of it all, right? And then I think it's the same thing with women, like black women especially. Like, we should be able to have this sort of conversations with them. It's just being open enough to actually just ask the questions. Like, and I know people say, oh, like, not people. I mean, in my personal life, like, why are you asking about Kim? Like, I want to make sure you're good. Like, I'm not trying to, like, this is me saying I want you to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, then why are you in my space? Right? Like, I want to make sure you're good. And just following that up with the fact that you said, like, us guys were confident enough, and I feel like that's something that I don't know whose responsibility it is, and maybe that's something that, we can talk about. We need to empower black women a bit more to be comfortable, because going back to the story of the friend I had who said, why do black men hate black women? Yeah. And I was like, you're 10, like, why do you need anyone's validation? And the reason why I made that comment was I was reflecting on myself, where like I'm a short guy, but I know who I am, I know who I represent, and no one can tell me shit. So that's in mindset. I'm like, why are we not empowering black women, or what is that mechanism, or how can that mechanism be to empower black women to be proud of who they are? Like, yo, like, I don't need your validation, I know who I am, like, screw you, like, I'm a bomb ass chick, you know? Like, how can that happen, you know?
I think it speaks to privilege, right? Like, even when you talk about like Black Lives Matter, like the system in which we exist that is controlled by white people, we may not be able to change by ourselves internally, but if you have allies, right? Like, you have white allies who are okay, like, fam, this shit is fucked up. Like, we need to be able to create spaces for black people to exist, and not create like and then be policing that space, right? Like, there's one thing to create a safe space, and there's another thing to police that space, because then now you're controlling people's reactions and behaviors. But as a guy, or again, as anybody, if you see a space that is not safe for a black woman, dog, like, and you have the privilege of feeling comfortable, like, you are just sitting down, the legs open, like, drink whatever, like, and you see that happening, your first thought shouldn't just be like, you're like, that's just happening at the side. Because I remember, like, you know, back maybe university days, being at parties, like, you see stuff happening. You can see babes being visibly uncomfortable, but like, you're just like, it's whatever. Like,
mind my business.
I'm gonna mind my business, right? Like, you have the privilege of minding your business in that situation, right? But it shouldn't be that way. And this goes from not just parties. Like, you go into your office, maybe you see a black woman being talked down, or like that passive aggressive behavior from white, and you just have to like step in and just be like, guy, like, because we've seen videos of black guys knock people out, like, that just straight up, like, that's that, like, you don't have to knock the person out. If you have to, go ahead.
Like, thank you, but like, I'm straight.
Based on the situation, like, it's your responsibility, if you see that people don't feel safe expressing themselves, being themselves in any situation, that you yourself, you can be yourself, right? Like, to step up, right? Like,
let me ask you a question now. Like, what if it's a situation where you step up, but it comes across to the be like, it's not your business, mind your business. You know what I mean? Like, the babe actually comes back and like, I didn't ask you to intervene. Like,
fair.
So like, how as a guy, how do you then approach that situation? Like, because if that happens, the next time you be like, I'm minding my business, you know, like, I'm not getting involved. So
in that situation, personally, I would just be like, my bad. You know, I thought maybe you needed help, and if you didn't, that's fine. Next time, if it's the same person, I'm just ask, do you need help? Like, this is happening because the person I told you once, you don't want to assert yourself again, and it's like, dog, why are you in my space? Like, I'm trying to handle this. So, like, again, I don't think I've encountered this, but like, I'm imagining that ideal situation. That's what I do. First time, help. Second time, ask. Like, I
remember the story I saw on Twitter about this guy who was walking his niece in Nigeria. Like, I don't know how old she was, but she was a really young girl. And then this lady just came up to him, and she dragged the girl from his hand, and she's like, who is this girl to you? Did you hear about that?
Fair.
She was like, who's this girl to you? And at first, like, the guy was like, obviously, the person was like, the fuck, who are you? Like this is my niece. But like, he didn't say this is my niece. But then he had a moment of clarity where he was like, there's more to play at. There's more at play at this. And he actually goes, this is my niece. And the woman still wasn't satisfied. She was like, she actually pulled the girl aside. Do you know this guy? She said, yeah. She said, who is he to you? She tells the guy, oh, so your niece, I want to talk to her mother. So he called the mother, and then she spoke to him. And then the woman then goes, okay, like, my apologies, but I had my young daughter who was kidnapped from me 5 years ago, and I still haven't found her. Wow. And like, he had that maturity to be like, okay, calm down. Like, there's something more at play here.
Yeah.
That's okay. This woman is basically distraught about something, and he's like, and he's like, look, don't apologize for attacking me. I want you to attack anytime you see that, because shit's fucked up. And like, if you end up saving a life now, you'll probably end up saving a life in the future.
Wow.